Video is dedicated to J.M. Coolin for asking what are the settings for printing TPU. Okay, here we are in my print settings for TPU. It's a Creality slicer, which I'm really liking. You import your file, it automatically slices them up, and then you click export it to your SD card. So super easy, I'm really impressed. Okay, my layer height I've got set at 0.6. My general rule of thumb is to set the layer height at half the extruder tip width. In this case, we've got a 1mm extruder tip, and I'm going slightly over by going at 0.6. Okay, my shell thickness is 3mm. Enable retraction is not ticked. Bottom and top thickness is 3mm. Fill density is my default at 20. Seems to work good for most things. Print speed is 40. Printing temperature 230. The bed temperature, in this case it is set at 10, but my rule of thumb is to set the bed temperature slightly over the ambient temperature of the room that you're in. So let's just say that the room was 5 degrees and it's really cold, then the bed temperature being 10 would make sense. And I generally have that rule because some printers won't end up printing the print because the bed is trying to come up to the number you've set it to. And of course, if the number has started off lower, then it's never going to come up to that number, and it sits there waiting to warm up, and it can't because it's actually needing to cool down. Okay, let's move on. Support, type none, platform adhesion type none, the diameter filament 1.75mm, flow percentage. Now I've got it slightly over at 105%, and I'm finding that works really good, and the nozzle tip is 1mm. Now we've clicked into advanced settings, and speed 20, distance 0.01, quality, initial layer thickness 0.5, initial layer line width 100%, cut off object bottom 0, 0, 0, dual extrusion overlap 0.15, travel speed 60, bottom layer speed 20, infill speed 0, top bottom speed 0, outer shell speed millimeters 20 millimeters a second, inner shell speed 20, minimum layer time second 5. Enable cooling fan is ticked. So those are the settings. Ding, how to print TPU rubber. Great stuff. I've got a 1mm extruder tip on a CR10, it's about half a cubic meter, and of note, the spool holder, you really need a really slippery spool holder. I've made one out of an old paint roller here, and I've put a little rubber O-ring there that just slides on to actually hold the spool in place, because the spool tends to travel down the roller as it's printing. But it's a big advantage to have this roller just super easy to turn, because the stuff is so stretchy, it sort of stretches out and causes the prints to have this sort of webbing effect. Let's see if you can actually see right through this print, and what it is yeah, it was a result of this just sitting on just a normal pole. You know how everyone just has a pole and you put the spool on it and it sort of drags its way around the pole. Well, with TPU, you really want to eliminate that drag on the spool. Just before we get into the details of the settings, I just wanted to show again the difference between printing with a old stick spool holder, stretching the filament, making it hard to print, and then the paint roller one where the filament spins real easy, and it's just, the difference is night and day. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to print with TPU. So looking at the printer and the bed adhesion, sometimes I do give it a bit of a spray with some no-name hairspray. Just before the extruder tip comes out, I just give it a bit of a mist, and then, you know, sometimes I do that and it sticks good, and I just use the same tape over and over, because the rubber peels off quite easily off the build plate. It seems to last quite well, surprisingly. I've got a sheet of glass on my build plate here just to make sure it's nice and flat, and it's just sort of clamped on with these sort of paper clippy peggy things. Yeah, no, I like this printer, it's good. Alright, thank you. Just wanted to say, it's, you know, you always want to ventilate your room well, or have an extractor fan, or, you know, build a case for your printer so that the fumes are taken away. It's not particularly fumey stuff, but you don't want to breathe it no matter what it is. If it ain't air from trees, so. Alright, thanks.